Welcome to the Student Ministry Matters podcast. We want to encourage, equip, and connect those with a passion to impact the next generation for Jesus Christ. Student ministry can be a lonely place. You might even feel like you're the only one in your church or community that cares about students. Well, know this, you're not alone. People all across the country are engaging Gen Z and care deeply about the spiritual direction of these young men and women. Whether you're full-time, part-time, bivocational, or volunteer, if you have a heart for students, this is the place for you.
Well, welcome back to the Student Ministry Matters podcast. My name is Chris Vines, and I do not have Dan Carson with me today. Instead, I have my favorite person in the whole wide world, my wife, Sidney Vines. Sidney, say hi to our listeners.
Hello, listeners.
So, Sidney, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm staring at a man with noticeably less facial hair.
Yeah,
it's still there.
Tell him what I did this morning.
He went and got a haircut, but failed to mention to me that most of the beard is gone. So I'm gonna have to rememorize his face over the next couple of days.
Yeah.
But it looks good. I'm
feeling kind of naked on the podcast today, so it's a good thing it's a podcast. But I've had a beard for going on 2 years, I guess, 2.5 years. To have a legitimate beard, I guess, if you can call what I had a legitimate beard. But anyway, I knocked a lot of it off today, or had my barber do that. And he looked at me, and when I told him what I wanted to do, he said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "No, but we're going to do it anyway." And
because he knows how I feel.
Yeah. And then about halfway through, I told him, I said, "Sidney doesn't even know about this." And he's like, "Are you kidding me?" And I was like, "Yeah, you need to probably be aware that she's coming to your door today." And so, yeah.
It looks good.
Anyway, well, today is a special day. This is the first time that Sidney has been on our podcast. And this particular week, Dan is just super busy as his son Riley is getting married this weekend. We're currently recording this on December the 30th, and so we're about to turn in the new year. But I thought that we would take this opportunity to give Dan just a week off, let him focus on his family, the wedding at hand, and give us a chance to be able to talk husband and wife about ministry and just a few different things. But first, before we get into the meat of the conversation, Sidney, tell us, what was your favorite Christmas gift?
Well, Christopher, I'm so glad that you asked. It would have to be the beautiful, beautiful work bag that you purchased for me.
Who purchased that for you?
It would be you.
Yes.
My favorite gift came from you.
Yes. Am I a good gift giver?
You got everything on my list. Absolutely.
I did do that. Men out there, just stick to the list, okay? Don't try to be creative, because when you're creative, things fall apart, quite literally. So, anyway, yes, Sidney, you did get a nice bag. Hey, my unexpected but favorite gift from you was Google.
Yeah.
Sidney gave me Google this year.
I did. Google Nest Audio.
I don't know what it's called. It's a Google speaker.
I don't know. He can say, "Hey Google," and "Hey Google" helps him do all of the things.
So out in my workshop, there is Google now, and I can say, "Hey Google, play me some music," and Google will play me some music. I can say a lot of things, and Google will now. She's now my assistant. Google's my assistant, and so I've moved into what century are we in?
21st.
Are you sure?
No.
We are in the 21st century. All right. Well, today, guys, specifically what we want to talk about is a little bit of the life that we've been living, and we're also kind of in a transition stage in our family and our marriage as well. And so I wanted to bring Sidney on specifically for this because it pertains mostly to her. And I think she has a lot of insight, and we know that many of you guys who are in ministry maybe are married, maybe young in your marriage, and we still consider ourselves young in our marriage, although it's been 10 years in this coming May. It's important to remember those kind of dates, and so I've got that one marked on my calendar. But yeah, it's crazy that it's been 10 years. We have a couple of kids, and they're kind of tinkering in the background right now, but But yeah, so I wanted to specifically ask Sidney some questions in regard to being a full-time mom, because for the past 9 years, she has been a stay-at-home full-time mom, and let's just call a spade a spade. A lot of times that gets a bad rep. You get comments like, "Oh, you don't really have a real job. Maybe one day you'll have a real job." All those kind of things. And so, Sidney, let's just start right there and just ask: is being a full-time stay-at-home mom a legitimate, real job?
Absolutely. And not is it a legitimate real job. Not only is it a legitimate real job, it's about 10 legitimate real jobs. I have been the chef, the chauffeur, the manager,
That'd be really cool if you could come up with another word.
Yeah,
chef, chauffeur, and
the laundress.
Laundress.
Handling all of the laundry. But it is hands down the most rewarding job that I've ever had in my entire life, and the hardest.
Yeah. Well, you've handled it well. If you've never heard me say that, which I hope you have, but you've handled it well, and I'm thankful for you. But let's talk a little bit about just kind of the ins and outs of it, because I think when we started that journey, because it was a journey, we weren't really expecting it, and we had talked about it a little bit, but it's something that the Lord put on your heart early on, even before Carson, our oldest, was born, and he changed your heart on it. But kind of walk through, because I think we've got some listeners out there that would be interested in hearing just your heart behind it. Like, why did we make that decision? Why was it something that I thankfully did not have to in any way really persuade you on? It was something that you joyfully walked into. Yeah,
so it was definitely something that I joyfully, but I would say hesitantly walked into. We definitely knew early on in our marriage that once we started having children, that was our desire for our home, not just in a family sense, but in the ministry sense too. That's so that I could be your helper in that way as well, taking care of our family, so that you could just dive headfirst into ministry, and I could handle things on the home front so that you could serve the Lord in that way. Now, when we had our first child, it happened a little sooner than we expected, and so becoming a stay-at-home mom happened sooner than expected. And at the time, I had my dream job at Southwestern Baptist Seminary as the event coordinator for institutional advancement, which was a job that we patiently waited for and prayed about, and was such a wonderful fit and was a blessing to our family. And we had planned on me going back to work after we had our first child, Carson, but in his goodness, the Lord had other plans. And the short story of it is Chris was offered a position at the school, and we couldn't both have full-time benefit-bearing positions per school rules. So either he was going to accept the new job, or I was going to stay where I was. And we prayerfully and for a little bit tearfully considered what that looked like. And it was hard for me to leave my dream job that I'd worked hard for and that I absolutely loved. But just seeking the Lord, He quickly changed my heart. I thought that while I had the desire to be a stay-at-home mom, when it was hit with reality, it was a little terrifying, and I didn't really think that I wanted to do it. But He changed my heart, and Chris and I were so blessed that I was able to stay home even a week before our son was born and be with him from the moment he came home from the hospital. So it was a good decision. Yeah.
Hey, you need to know, because this is obviously the first time you guys have ever, or most of you have ever heard Sidney's voice, but Sidney is a go-getter. She is very gifted when it comes to coordinating, not just coordinating small things, but coordinating big things. In fact, she is a wedding planner coordinator. She's a florist, and I don't know if she would consider herself that, but she is certainly a florist. And over the last few years, she's been running a a wedding coordination business that she started up, and so she's always been that way. She's always been a go-getter, and so when she's saying that it was prayerful and in many ways tearful at that time, like, she was a go-getter back then for sure, but the Lord changed her heart to be someone who didn't stop being a go-getter, but wanted to fully embrace being a full-time mom. And I can't tell you how much of a blessing that was for me as just a young husband, someone who's trying to figure out what it means to lead a family and still trying to figure that out as well. And so I'm thankful for how the Lord just threw his grace on us in that sense. But, many years have passed. I say many, several years have passed since that original decision. And it wasn't always easy. I think we could certainly talk about how it was a sacrifice and all that kind of thing. But I don't really want to talk in those terms, because to us, I think we would admit that there were sacrifices made, but to us this was what we were supposed to do. This is what we needed to do, and this is what we wanted to do. We didn't want other people raising our kids, and we wanted you to be there with them, and that came with some difficulties. And so our kids now are both in school, but share with our listeners just a little bit of as we started out in ministry. Our kids were still young. They're in the home. What are some things that you as a mom who was there day after day, that you encountered that maybe you didn't expect, that were difficult but also filled with joy? I know I'm putting you on the spot here to think back, but
yeah. Well, I first want to back up a second and just say that, I don't want it to sound like Chris and I are saying that the only way to raise a family is with a full-time mom in the home. I think it's important to say that. I think that it is obviously a different decision for every family. And absolutely, culture tells us that it's a huge sacrifice and that you're, giving away extra income and all of that. But I also want to say that while it looked maybe from the outside on the inside that it was a huge sacrifice, it never felt like that. It has always been such a great joy. While, yes, we didn't have two incomes, the Lord has always provided in every single area that we needed. And I'm so thankful for that. But I just want to make it really clear, because I think sometimes, it can be, you're a good mom if you're a stay-at-home mom and you're a bad mom if you work, or vice versa. And I don't ever want it to sound like that. It was the right fit for our family, and that's where the Lord led us. I do encourage you, if you do have the opportunity to do that and serve your family in that way, trust the Lord. If he's telling you to do it, 100% jump on it. Yes, financially it can be a little scary, and yes, it's draining, but it is the most rewarding thing that I've ever been able to do for our family. Okay, so back to your question. One of the things just from the get-go that was most surprising for me, as Chris said, I like to get things done, and I was so used to walking into my office and making a to-do list, and by 5 o'clock having that to-do list mostly marked off and feeling a sense of accomplishment for the day. And if you have been a stay-at-home mom, you know what I mean when I say this. You never feel accomplished, ever. The laundry is never ending. Making 3 meals a day, cleaning up the living room constantly from all the toys. And that really bogged me down in the beginning, just feeling like, okay, I've gone from somewhere where I'm accomplishing something every single day to feeling like I never get anything done. And even the Lord was gracious in that and just brought people into my life. A particular mentor that, as I was just through the trenches of it, and we were in the beginning of ministry, we moved to Hope for Chris to start at Garrett Memorial when Carson was only 10 months old, our first child. And, starting our ministry here and having a young child, and up to that point being very involved in where we served in ministry together, and having to kind of take a step back and just remembering how guilty that I felt, because Chris and I have always seen each other as a team in ministry. Where he goes, I go, and I always want to support and help him in any way that I can. And to have to kind of take a step back and not be as involved was really, really difficult. But I had and then as we were getting ready to welcome our second child, just being distraught over that and how I wasn't with the youth as much, or I wasn't getting to be at events as much. And having this wonderful mentor in my life tell me, your job as a mother is to disciple and lead those children to the Lord. And that was a game changer for me, that I no longer had this pressure of, well, I'm not serving, I'm not discipling the students that we've been entrusted with, but my focus should be on those little boys in my home. And that was kind of a pivotal change for me, that I no longer saw being a stay-at-home mom as never accomplishing anything, getting bogged down with the same old, constant laundry, dishes, all of that. But the gift I had been given in being the primary discipler of my children.
Yeah, that's so good. And it showed in our home. And it took an adjustment for me as well, because I had to shift my view of Sidney for that, and not put unrealistic expectations on her. And I didn't always do that perfectly, but it was something that we grew in together and are still growing in together. And in fact, we're skipping over a few years, but we're in a spot now where both of our boys are in school, and we're blessed to be in a place where we have a Christian school that they can go to. And homeschooling was never necessarily off the table for us, but we kind of learned as our boys were getting older that just because of the position we're in, the place that we're in, having the Christian school here, that this is where the Lord wanted us to put them, and so we made that decision to put them into the Christian school. And so the conversation started between Sidney and myself a couple years ago of, what is it going to look like? What is her day going to look like when they're both in school? Because she didn't want to just sit around the house all day, waiting for them to get out at 3:00. And so the Lord put a huge blessing in our life, most recently, and particularly in Sidney's life. And she is now working another full-time job, and is, in my opinion, knocking it out of the park. And so, Sidney, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing for almost 3 months now, and why you love it so much.
Yeah. So, what Chris didn't mention was I had decided many years ago, when we were having the conversation of what am I going to do when our children are in school, I worked my tail off to have the full-time wedding and floral business, because I didn't want to go back to a real job. I wanted to work, absolutely. I like to be busy, but I didn't necessarily want to go back to a normal 9-to-5. And so that is what I have been working towards for the last 5 years. And it has been a huge blessing for our family. And the Lord had made it very clear that that was where I was supposed to be, and He blessed that business. But as we know, the Lord also can change things up in an instance. And over the summer, actually, while we were at SOAR, I just in passing was talking with John Merriweather, who is the director of operations at BMA Missions. And he mentioned that there was a job opening that was perfect for my skill set, knowing that I was a wedding planner. And I just kind of laughed at him. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But, I live in hope and are in a full-time business. Well, the Lord would not leave me alone about it. And little did I know, He was setting our family up for a huge but wonderful change. And after a few months of a lot of talking, I talked to Chris about it a lot, prayed about it a lot, spoke with John about it a lot. I accepted the full-time remote, we are not moving to Conway, position of relationship manager for the BMA of America missions department for the global missions. And what a joy it has been. I have always loved missions and had a heart for the mission field, and never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would be able to work in this way. So basically my role is brand new. It's the first time that anybody has held this role. It was a needed role, and it sounds really fancy by title, but basically all it means is that I am the liaison between the missions department and our churches and our people, so that I can help educate on what's happening across the globe. I can answer questions and kind of get all of that information from our office to you guys, and help you figure out what's happening in the lives of our missionaries.
Mm-hmm. You also get to set up really cool booths at all of our different BMA events, don't you? I
do. So I'm learning that. I am used to doing major setup for huge weddings and things like that, but what I'm learning is that conference booths are not necessarily my strong suit. I love the people. I love chatting with them, so definitely learning that. So yes, conferences. So from now on, national meeting, SOAR, what else do we have?
Senior adult conference. Yeah.
I will be there at the missions booth, so come see me.
Awesome. Well, we could say a lot more, and there's a lot more to be said. I mean, we've skipped over a lot of things, but particularly in your new job, you're working on something, have been working on something over the last couple of months. We've got a big event coming up, and just kind of the rhythm of BMA life. World Missions Day. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to give you an opportunity to just be able to share with our friends out there when it is, what it is, what they need to know about it.
Yeah, so if you are not familiar, World Missions Day is our kind of big fundraising day for the year. It happens every year in February. This year, it will be on February the 27th. That's the official date, but I know that there are many BMA churches that they celebrate World Missions Day all throughout the month of February, or they have one Sunday of February that is their giving day. But we recognize it on that last Sunday of the month. This year, I just absolutely love our theme. This year, the theme is broken, and it comes from the verse, kind of what the whole behind the theme is Matthew 9:36 through 38. And it says, when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion for them because they were weary and scattered, like sheep having no shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. So many times when we read that verse or hear that verse preached, the focus is on how the laborers are few, which is true. And absolutely, we need more laborers and more people out on the field sharing the gospel. But the inspiration for this year's theme was off of the phrase, he was moved with compassion for them. And that's where you get the word broken. He was moved for compassion with the broken people. We live in a broken world. There's pandemics, political divide, poverty, persecution. But in a broken world, Jesus was burdened for broken people. So that's kind of what we are centered around this year, is that we want you guys as the BMA to be broken for broken people, not just concerned with sending out more laborers, but that you are as broken as we are for those that need to hear the gospel. So last year was the first year that the Jerry Kid Missions offering was a thing. And so that is what we give to. And so World Missions Day will be raising money for that. So we're just so excited. We've already had a wonderful response for registration. We would love to have your church register. You can go to BMA Missions webpage and go to the World Missions link there and register your church. It's free to register. All that does is let us know that you're participating, and then you can order supplies like bulletin inserts, donation envelopes, posters, things like that. Your pastor will get a free polo. There's also my information on that webpage, or you can email me. It's Sidney, SIDNEY, at bmaam.com, and I can help you with anything related to World Missions Day, answer any of your questions. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
All right. Well, Sid, we're going to have you back on the podcast for other conversations than this one. But I've enjoyed it, and it's been. I hope it's been beneficial to our listeners out there. If you guys see my wife behind a missions booth, be nice to her. All right, take a piece of the candy that she is trying to give out, and listen to what she has to say, because I promise you, you'll be blessed by it. And anyway, so we're just thankful. We're thankful that the Lord has seen fit to send this our way in an unexpected way. But really, what we wanted to just convey to you guys, our listeners today, is that we are people. I don't say we were. we are people who are, in every sense of the word, imperfect. We are people who are trying to figure this out, and I don't think anybody else who would come on this podcast would say otherwise about themselves or us. And we certainly don't want to be so self-centered to make this all about us. But I would simply give you the suggestion: if you're at a point where you and your wife, or maybe you're not married yet, maybe you're engaged, or you have someone that you're looking to marry. And this is one of those conversations that you are having or want to have about what happens when we have kids. What's that going to look like? I think that's a worthy conversation to have. It's one that you need to be on the same page about. It's one that you really have to be on the same page about. And I think the two things that I would say, just to wrap us up, is one, and first and foremost, submit yourself to the Lord. Mm-hmm. Submit yourself to the Lord. Make sure that you are in a posture of surrender, of humility, where you're trusting Him and what He has for your life, and to know that whatever direction He has is much better than anything you could come up with. And I love how Sidney said it earlier. Our story is not everybody's story. Not everybody is in the same position as we are or as we were. And so that's why this right here is all the more crucial. Don't submit yourself to the story of others. Don't submit yourself to something that you think that just has to happen. And certainly don't allow yourself to become prideful in whatever decision you make, but submit yourself to the Lord, not just once, but every single day. And I believe He truly will direct your path. And the other one, I'm tempted to say is practical, but that one that I just said is very practical, if you hear me correctly. But this other one may come as a little bit unexpected. If you're a guy out there, and I don't want to exclude our ladies as well, because this is true for them too, but for the future leaders of homes, please listen to me. Don't put yourself in a position financially where you feel forced for your wife to work. That's not a popular opinion, but it's one that I'm going to give out. Because many times we force ourselves into these trains of thinking that we have to have two jobs in order to make ends meet. And look, I know that the world is expensive and it's only getting worse. Believe me, we've got two boys and they are starting to eat us out of house and home. But be wise right now with the money that the Lord has blessed you with, whatever it is, however much it is. Stay away from loads of debt to the point where you feel pressured into doing more than really what you should be doing. And I would say that was one of the great blessings that the Lord gave us early in our marriage, is an understanding that we didn't need everything that sparkled and glittered, if that's the right way of saying it. And as tempting as it is to want to have certain things, but to realize that there are bigger things at play. And so I'm so thankful that the Lord put that on Sidney's heart. He put it on my heart as well. And so we are imperfect people, but we are people that want to submit ourselves to the Lord. And we're thankful that the Lord has done that and continues to give us direction in that way. So guys, thanks for listening today. We believe that this is a conversation that matters. It's mattered to us, and just being very vulnerable is where we are and where we've been. And so you guys keep plugging away. Happy New Year to you whenever you're listening to this, whether it be now or later down the road. I hope that you have a great 2022, or if you're distant in the future and this podcast is still going on, Thanks for coming back and listening to us again. And we'll probably be like 50 years old then, and who knows. All right. As Dan Carson always says, keep at it because student ministry matters.
Thanks for listening to the Student Ministry Matters podcast. Get connected at studentministrymatters.com or follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Student Ministry Matters. Until next time, keep up the great work with your students because the work matters.